How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking with Mitch Ott. He's a professional triathlete from the Nashville area on the Working Triathlete team. If you have heard previous episodes with Conrad or Derek Stone, they are the guys who run Working Triathlete, and Mitch is a part of that team as a professional. He went pro while on that team. So really good conversation today. Get to talk a bit about the upbringing that Mitch had, some of the hardships that he went through, and just things that he's working on going through right now as a professional. And yeah, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my good friend Mitch. So where are you at?
Home.
Nice.
Like specifically?
Yeah, like specifically, is this like a side room, basement? Like what's behind you?
So this is actually like the dining area. Like it's supposed to be dining room table. I'm actually on a dining room table. Like that's my desk. But we don't have a true dining room table set up. So we just eat at like the bar that's right there in the kitchen. So adjacent to the living room.
Yeah, nice. Are we? Am I like on your phone or is it computer?
It's computer.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I won't make you turn it around then. But what is this behind you? Is this an oar of some sort?
Yeah, so that was the parting gift that was given to me when I left my coaching job back in Orlando.
Okay.
So I was coaching for like 3 years for a local high school team.
Rowing?
Yeah, all the kids signed it, and for rowing, yeah. A juniors program. All the kids signed it and left little notes on there.
That's awesome. Pretty meaningful then, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure.
How many years you said did you coach rowing?
3 years. Three full like seasons. I had actually done like a summer program while I was in college. So like the year before I graduated, I was coaching there, just kind of assistant. And then after graduating, I was called up by old buddy, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come and coach for the men's junior program?" And kind of went from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you grow up rowing?
Yeah, so I started rowing basically going into high school. My mom was pretty much just like, you need to find a sport to do. I hadn't really done any sports throughout middle school and kind of picked it up in high school and really just fell in love from there, and rowed all throughout high school and college. Got a scholarship to row for a lightweight program in college, and of course I was set to graduate 2020.
It didn't work out.
Yeah, the senior season was kind of shut down midway through.
Stinks.
So it was kind of a bummer, but that kind of led me into the life that I'm living now. And
for sure.
Triathlon.
Yeah, man, that's super interesting. So I don't know anything about rowing except that there's sometimes a boat and sometimes some oars and different numbers of people. But is there weight classes for the individuals as well? Is that what the lightweight means?
So, I mean, there's really just lightweight, and then there's like open weight pretty much, or heavyweight, which we called them. But I mean, for the majority of my like competitions, it was always competing against open weight divisions. So like to be lightweight, more so in college, you had to be under 160, but a boat average of 155. So there was a lot of times where guys were pretty close to that cutoff, around like 159.9, and then we had boat or weight makers who would weigh in like much lower than that to make the average 155.
Okay.
But that was only really for like championship races.
Yeah. That's interesting. So another rowing question, because I'm kind of intrigued. I always thought it was really cool, and I never did it. I canoed for fun. So with weight displacement or placement of the weight, do you try to have the heaviest weight in the back, or is it you trying to basically be balanced as possible, or how does that usually work?
Generally, the majority of the weight is centered in the middle. Like if it's an eight man boat, the four guys in the center are kind of like the engine room, create the most power. Not necessarily most technically proficient, but to a degree still have to be technically proficient. But more so the pair that's kind of up front and the pair that's in the back are more technically proficient, maybe strong as well. The lighter guys are more towards the bow, which is the front of the boat. But yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever capsize as a rower? Is that a thing?
Not like an accident. We did it on purpose a few times just to see what it was like, but
Yeah.
never on accident. We've
Yeah,
been in
things are-
some pretty, like we've swamped boats before, which basically means the boat fills with so much water that you're just kind of sitting right under the water, but it won't sink so long as there's oars, like the oars are attached to it.
Oh, because they're buoyant enough to hold it.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one rule is if you swamp a boat, leave the oars in.
Yeah,
or else
yeah.
you're losing your whole shell.
Yeah. For the boat, or I don't know, yeah, do you call them boats? Is that the technical name?
Or shells or skulls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the shells, are they typically made of wood or carbon fiber, or is there different classes for racing and different types?
Yeah. I mean, when I first started rowing in high school, we had a wooden boat. It was basically wooden frame. I believe it was like carbon or fiberglass kind of shell. But now they're pretty much fully carbon fiber.
Okay, nice.
So kind of like a bicycle frame, if you were to say.
Yeah, yeah. That's
A
super
lot
cool.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, well, welcome to the Stupid Questions Rowing Podcast. Thanks for joining. No, but yeah, I was super fascinated in that because I watched a movie not too long ago. It actually wasn't even that super well done, but it was about I don't know, that one team that made it to the Olympics. It was back in, I guess, the 30s or 40s.
The Boys in the Boat?
I think it's called The Boys in the Boat. Yeah, it's not too terribly old.
Yeah. With
but
the book and everything.
Yeah. So it was inspiring to a level, and I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I didn't realize how much, I guess, goes into it because, for the every man, it's like, oh yeah, there's a boat and s'mores, and you just pull as hard as you can. But my neighbor actually that I just moved away from, he's been getting into like erg rowing a ton, and he went to like nationals and then an international competition. He actually rowed against a guy who just won at the Olympics on the erg trainer.
Oh, really?
So this guy actually won in the water. So it's obviously a different sport. One is just raw power, and the other one's obviously a lot more technique based with power.
Right.
But yeah, it's super interesting to see I guess, how much time and dedication these people put into that complex movement. But it's like, I mean, biking on a bike for 4 hours is crazy, but all the time you put on doing this whole rocking movement is like, wow.
Yeah. Full body and same repetition movement. I mean, it's somewhat similar to what we're doing with triathlon for sure. Just a lot of volume, same movements over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. How did rowing affect your understanding just of hydrodynamics and your ability to swim? Do you feel like it added any competitive advantage there in your triathlon career now?
I mean, I can only assume that it did. I didn't swim like as a kid. I never did any swimming. So majority of my swim background is just like, growing up in Florida and having access to lakes and being in the water all the time. But more so for just like recreational and lifestyle sort of thing. But after college, I mean, my whole first year before really competing in triathlon was all open water swimming. I would just go to the lake nearby and swim out to the center. It's a pretty neat lake where the center of the lake, you can kind of stand about waist high.
Yeah.
So I would swim out there and hang out for a second and swim back. And then I had to learn how to swim in the pool and do like flip turns. And so that's when I really worked on technique and building efficiency in the water. But yeah, coming from a rowing background and the understanding of how the oar moves through the water and how the boat moves through the water, definitely for sure helped me out.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever wish that like you could have pursued? I mean, I'm assuming if you had a good senior year that you may have gone through and I guess done more of rowing. Is that kind of what the dream was?
Yeah, so at the time, just before the pandemic started, I had, plans in my mind to travel over to Europe or UK and continue rowing for a club over there for the summer, and row at the Royal Henley Regatta, compete there, and just kind of see where it took me. Um, I mean, the national team was a thought. Lightweight isn't necessarily as like big anymore. I mean, it's kind of dwindling, very, very slowly. But the thought is that it won't be a category coming up in the next few years. I mean, it's always
Really?
been debated, but yeah, it would have been very competitive. But yeah, that was obviously kind of a wash. And I just saw as soon as the senior season was canceled, and we weren't going to have our championship season, I just kind of pivoted and honestly was kind of lost for a bit, just
Yeah.
sitting at home, finishing school and deciding what's next.
Yeah.
Um,
So talk to me about that, I guess, process. What were you working on school-wise? What were you graduating with? And then I guess how did you eventually land on triathlon as something you were going to pursue?
Yeah, so I had a dual degree in business management and accounting. I picked up accounting after doing management as a major, so I was looking for a little bit of a way to kind of diversify and build the resume just a little bit more.
Sure.
So I added accounting, and post graduation was actually set up for a position in financial advising.
Okay.
And I was going through that process. The whole process came down to kind of just getting your own leads and starting off your business as a financial advisor. And I got to that point and was looking at what I was going to be set out for, and just knew that it wasn't going to be for me. So
Really?
I dropped that idea and just decided to, yeah, go through with coaching. Again, this was all like it was a hard decision to make because
Sure.
I have always felt like I've had to build a name for my family and kind of just branch out and be successful, kind of go along the traditional path. I was first gen college student. My dad's he's been in seafood sales my whole life. My mom kind of different jobs here and there. My sister dropped out of high school in her
Oh, wow.
sophomore year. So definitely a black sheep in kind of an untraditional manner.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the path that I thought was right. But honestly, with how competitive I was and like just how I saw myself when competing in rowing, I just knew I didn't want to give that up yet. So
Yeah.
it was really hard to just not go down the traditional path and find a 9 to 5. I was training pretty consistently, like right after. So I guess backing up a little bit, I had done a sprint triathlon. We had a family friend that convinced me to do a little sprint before going into my senior season. So this was back in like 2019, and I did pretty well. I think I was like third or second overall.
Wow.
And I had a lot of fun with it and decided to do another one late 2020. Surprisingly, they had the event. It was like December
Yeah.
2020.
Okay.
It was Challenge Daytona back then.
Yep.
It's now
Yeah, I
past,
did
I
that
believe. But
race. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I had always like just destroyed the bike and shuffled on the run because
Yeah.
the rowing background translates pretty well with cycling.
Yeah.
I also knew nothing about nutrition, so I'm like smashing the legs on the bike,
Yeah.
just holding
Eating
on
nothing.
for glory, and then yeah, completely falling apart when it came to the run. Um, and yeah, it was again just consistently looking back on like I'm supposed to be successful with a full-time job and like building income there, and it was just there was always just resistance. I knew that that wasn't the route for me. So
Yeah.
accepting the fact that I was going to go for triathlon, it was a long process, but over like 3 years post college, or I guess 2.5 years post college, is when I was fully like, all right, maybe I can do something here.
Yeah.
So did quite a few 70.3s throughout 2021, 2022. Did a full Ironman, I think, back in 2022. And then 2023 was really like the pivot year.
Hmm.
I had found my coach that I have now, and made a lot of progress. I was consistently placing like top three age group, and then decided the next step was to take the pro card and start racing professionally.
Yeah. So that's a big step, and a lot happened in between that time. But what was the set of things with your new coach? I guess, how did you find that new coach, and then what was the new set of things that kind of it gave you the ability to push beyond what you thought you had, or you knew you had, or maybe you knew you had it?
Um, That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I mean, so the way I found my coach was kind of interesting. I had just happened to fall upon this like posting on Instagram, which was an application for the elite development team for working triathlete.
Yeah.
And I believe I had seen their kits like around while I was racing a few times. So I
Yeah.
just looked into it and said, all right, whatever, I'll just apply and see what happens. And that led me to start talking with Conrad Gehringer, who's my coach now. I also was just like the entire time between college and where I'm living now, which is just south of Nashville, just outside of Nashville. Um, I had been looking for kind of a way out. My whole family is in Central Florida. I
Hmm.
grew up there, was raised there, and yeah, just wanted to branch out, explore something new. So this was kind of the next step. It was my way out. I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and the whole idea behind the elite team was to get everyone together to train and grow and kind of guide each other into racing professionally.
Hmm.
Um, it didn't exactly play out that way, but uh, it's been great to move here and start kind of a new life and
Yeah.
a great community. So yeah, I've been nothing but grateful for this opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Conrad's a good guy. Obviously, I know him, and um, why am I blanking on his name? Derek. Derek Stone. Yeah,
Derek?
great guys over at Working Triathlete. It was fun hanging out with them at Ohio, and that's cool that you've able to grow so much. And I want to ask some more questions about that. But first, I want to go back to something you mentioned a little bit earlier. Just this concept of being kind of the black sheep in the family. You felt like you needed to make a name for the family or yourself. I guess, where did that come from? When did that start becoming like a focus for you?
Um, yeah, that goes back to when I was really young. So when I was about 7 or 8 years old, a lot of things changed in life. So up to that point, it was, just as any, well, I shouldn't say just as any, but more of what people kind of dream about with a family of four. Everything's kind of happy-go-lucky and running smoothly with a family. And
Yeah.
we had moved into a new house, and things kind of started to change a bit. my parents ended up getting a divorce, and the family kind of split. My sister kind of took sides with my mom, and then I was kind of left to pick a side with my dad. And yeah, that was a really just like confusing time because I didn't necessarily understand why or that it was even a thing, of course, that parents could just not like each other anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was dark times. It was really, really just, yeah, like 360 or sorry, 180
Yeah.
change in life. And yeah, I just kind of didn't like the relationship with my mom dwindled. My dad was super busy with work and being in a sales position. That's all he ever did. It was, you know, before I get up in the morning, he's already off to work. And when I get back, he is kind of getting back, like back from school. He's getting back from work and it doesn't stop. It's just still working at home. And that was like from then until, yeah, all the way through high school. And, you know, my sister went through some really rough patches. She, of course, she had dropped out of high school pretty early on, and lived with my mom. I think my dad kicked her out of the house when she was like 13.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
yeah, so at that point it was just me. It felt like it was just me living at home,
Yeah.
kind of having to do all the chores, kind of take care of myself. And I mean, I shouldn't say that it was fully on my own, like definitely felt fully supported and loved by my parents, but it just wasn't the same relationship that was what, you know, growing up until that point. So I think at that point, that's where I felt like, okay, I'm kind of in control of what happens from here. If I don't get as much leadership and guidance from my parents or even my older sibling, then it's kind of up to me. And I'm at a point in my life where I think I'm super grateful that I experienced that because, I mean, that's just what's kind of shaped me up to this point.
Sure.
And independence is like a big part of who I am and who I've always been, kind of thing. Like, I don't often ask for help. I think, you know, over the past few years, I've definitely been more comfortable with that. But yeah, that's where I've built that resiliency and that whole black sheep and untraditional sense is like just separating myself from my family and kind of trying to put a good name to who we are and yeah, building my own name, I guess, for sure.
Yeah. How do you feel like you're doing on that journey and with that goal?
I I feel like I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm like super competitive and would like to be at a better position, but I also realize that where I'm at now is like much further than what I ever expected before or whatever
Yeah.
I could even have dreamt of. So, and it also goes back to the point of which like I wanted to be, or I thought I wanted to be in a 9 to 5, making a lot of money and being successful in that aspect. So it was always a battle with myself that my family, like I thought my family wanted more out of me and wanted a more traditional path, if you were to say, than going for being a professional triathlete. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like there's no better good time to ask this question than because now you've given me a good bit of context for, I guess, some of the defining moments that have shaped you. Obviously, we're both still pretty young, and there's still a lot of future of transformation that may still yet come. But you've given me an eye into the competition side, the rowing side, coaching side, being coached. So my question to you is, to you, and this doesn't happen to encompass just the things that you do, but who is Mitch?
Wow. I think I could only put context to that through what I've heard from other people who have just explained who I am and what I'm about. But you know, a lot of people will be somewhat intimidated by me. I'm not the most approachable guy, that's for sure. I guess it's just the ambiance and the way I look a little bit can be somewhat intimidating. But I'm at the heart, like, I love connecting with people. One-on-one moments is kind of where I shine. With groups of people, like in a social setting, it's not necessarily my thing. But I do love like connecting with others and sharing experiences and knowledge and thoughts. And that's something that I love about the sport, is that, you know, or just sport in general, is everyone has their own story and what's led them to this point in their life. And that's just, you know, great to hear about those sort of things and what drives people. But I'm also fairly reserved. I do share my story every once in a while, but I've been fairly private, and I think it's just a security thing, kind of growing up with what, you know, my family. Sometimes I've been a little bit ashamed at the story itself, and like, yeah, so maybe that's kept it a little bit, like secrecy for me. But yeah, I think, you know, what else? I'm not really sure.
No, that's a good answer. I appreciate the honesty and the rawness, because I can relate to the shame aspect, I guess. And so how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay. I thought you were older. Okay, so 26 is good. So when I was 26,
Everyone thinks I'm older.
Yeah. Well, you've got like a very calm, it seems like you've got a lot of experience, more like wise, slow, stoic movement about you. So I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's bad at all. But
I've been explained that way as well. Just kind of old soul. I look fairly young, but act fairly old soul, stoic. Again, that goes back to kind of the I guess the way I look and kind of give off that sort of energy, which is a good thing.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's bad at all. I mean, when I first met you, I think in person, it was at St. Anthony's, right? At the dinner.
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't strike me as like intimidating. So, I mean, but then
That's
again,
good.
not many people do strike me as intimidating. I usually am kind of naively dumb and walking into conversations with people who may not want to be in that conversation anyway. So, definitely been there. But you mentioned a little bit of like this insecurity of being ashamed. And I was gonna say, like, I can definitely relate. Like my family's upbringing and stuff, and you know, until I was 16, life was like kind of how you were saying, quote unquote, normal, and then everything just seemed to kind of blow up in a firestorm. And you know, I'm 32 now, so I'm not terribly much older than you, but I've got, you know, 6 more years of therapy and counseling that I've been through and talking through these things, and I'm into the place now where I don't try to hide it. Then again, I'm different than you in that I typically wear my heart on my sleeve, so there's obviously a different dynamic there. But what do you think it would take for you to feel, I mean, unashamed of what you came from and where you've come from?
Well, I think just in maturing, I used to be like to the point where I was just angry. Like I was just mad that I had the family that I had. Like there's been, oh my gosh. I mean, I've always felt like the older sibling to my sister. Because of course you love your sibling, but
Sure.
I mean, there was a lot of friction, as with many families. But again, there was times where I had to like support her, and you know, she went through some really dark times, eating disorders and depression and all that. And then, my parents were or are, big into drinking. There's a lot of like secrecy too. It's just been hard as far as like that normal dynamic that you usually have with family,
Yeah.
where you ultimately trust them fully and have full faith into like having normal discussions and expressing yourself. I never felt that way. So I was just angry for a long time, and through just growing older and maturing a bit, I think I've found that I can just accept the way I grew up. It's like I'm at a point where, I heavily believe in, everything happening for a reason, sort of thing, and the experiences that we encounter in life are designed to kind of build who we are and shape us. And I'm forever grateful for that in itself. Even though there were some hard times and experienced some lows, it's something in my resume that I'm actually somewhat proud of,
Yeah.
to be where I
Good.
am now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, you come a long way, and then you're working on this professional triathlete career, which, I mean, I saw a post recently by, I forget who it was, an Olympian. You may have even seen it, but it was like, so you want to be an Olympian, or so you want to be an athlete, and then it goes through all of these things that like you go through. Do you know what post I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with it now.
Okay, well, anyway, it was interesting because it's like, do you want to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and even though you're dog tired, go do it again the next day, and da 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 da. I mean, then it
Yeah.
kind of it builds into a crescendo of once you do get to that place where whatever your quote unquote gold medal is, you get to that place, and you either make it or you don't, but it's all about the journey, kind of a thing. So yeah, overcoming the things you've gone through to get to that point, I think, is a testament to who you are and who you want to be, because to do these things takes a lot of, like you were saying, resilience and mental fortitude. But you're still so young, so I'm excited to see kind of where it continues to build and to go, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: with the movement now into being a professional, full on, how's it going? Like, how do you feel like you're doing? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very new into it. I've done 3 pro races this year. Started off at St. Anthony's, and then 70.3 chat was my first, like, what I kind of consider pro race.
Yeah.
That's like the specialty for sure. And then we just did 70.3 Augusta, like, yeah, a week and a half ago. And I'm stoked. I didn't expect to kind of have the results that I've had now. They're not spectacular for sure. There's top 20 results, but yeah, I mean, I had no expectation going into the year. Just did the work that I could to position myself the best I could to perform. And there's a lot changing currently, like post main. I work part-time at like a run specialty store, and
Okay.
I'm doing some coaching still as well, for triathlon, and yeah, considering pivoting a little bit, maybe going more full-time with coaching. I would love to create more content, and get back into making some videos. So there is some things changing right now, a lot of things being considered, but as far as triathlon goes, I mean, the end goal, which hopefully can be soon, is to just be full time with training. I don't think I'll ever step away from coaching, just because that's a big passion of mine,
Sure.
and I love to see progress in others and give my 2 cents to others that are going kind of on a similar trajectory. So
Yeah. Are you coaching like out on your own, or are you coaching on behalf of or with Working Triathlete?
a little bit of both. For Working Triathlete, I'm not like a one-on-one coach. I build a universal program. for some of there's like a tiered system through Working
Yeah.
Triathlete. So you can be one-on-one or follow like a universal training plan and be a member of Working Triathlete and all. And then I also will meet people and develop relationships and have coached quite a few people preparing for marathons and a few others through triathlon.
Nice. That's awesome. You said you want to continue to do that. Do you currently coach any professionals, and do you want to coach professional athletes, or do you do mostly age group?
Well, to answer your question, I would definitely entertain the idea of working with more elite athletes. I think working alongside them would be great, and I think right now, just developing a little bit more knowledge and resources that pertain to racing at an elite level. I mean, of course, I'm building experience, but I think like studies and knowledge can go a long way, and that's something that I enjoy doing. I love learning more at a more deeper level, and I think in the coming months I'll be spending more time there, and yeah, just adding to the resume, and it would be great to eventually coach at the elite level. But for right now and for the foreseeable future, just age group.
Yeah. So I want to go back again one more time because I forgot to ask this question earlier. But you said that you strongly believe that the things that happen more or less kind of happen for a reason, and they're there to build, I guess, character and resilience and things like that. Does that come from like a spiritual, religious context, or is it different?
Well, I didn't grow up religious. I grew up in a Jewish household, so we celebrated the Jewish holidays, but we never went to temple. I maybe went to temple like once or twice growing up. And that was kind of like, what we aligned ourselves with.
Sure.
But I spent plenty of time going to church with neighbors and friends, and I went to a Catholic university, so
A little different.
I wouldn't say that I'm like fully religious to any extent, but there's some spiritual ties with what I believe. I don't necessarily spend a whole lot of time like aligning myself with any one belief, but accepting all and living in understanding. I think that's something that I would kind of categorize myself as and align with. But growing up, it was more so like the leadership that I did get from my parents was just to be a good person and support others and have love for those that you surround yourself with, and the underlying like teachings of all that. So
Yeah. The golden rule kind of covers, I would say, over half of all of those. I mean, from a Jewish perspective, all of those different commandments and stuff. Like, if you can learn how to treat others as you would want to be treated, it's such a hard thing to do, especially for me when it comes to driving. I was thinking about that on my drive up yesterday back from the swimming pool. Like, my mom's dad, so my grandfather, the most angry driver you could ever meet. Then my mom, she's like, I'm not going to be as bad as him, but she's still pretty bad. And I'm, by the third generation, not as intense. So I'm really hoping that by the time I have kids, I could fully pass on this golden rule belief system that they will be like really good drivers. I know that's a little bit unrelated, but yeah, it's not easy to do, especially when you're,
Well, kids are sponges, so teach them while they're young, and hopefully they'll carry it into adulthood.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. When I was younger, I used to just fuss at my mom. I'm never going to be like you. I'm never going to do these things. And I don't even have kids yet, but I've noticed like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this same thing like my mom did. It's crazy how that works. Like, even if we notice that it's something not necessarily that we like we don't want to adopt it. We adopt it. We're creatures of habit. It's such an interesting fact about us humans. Yeah. So, I guess from here, I want to hear about you and Caroline. So how did you meet Caroline, and what is it like living, I guess, with someone else who's also on the same path when triathlon is more or less, I mean, in a lot of ways, that kind of a selfish sport, and it's you have to, watch after your body and things like that. So how did you meet, and how does that work?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time just focusing on my own path. I mean, I'm a very driven person. If I have ambitions or goals, it's like head down, get to work, don't look up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So one day I go to the pool that I was training at in Florida, and I see this girl in the lane, few lanes over from me, and I was like, wow, she's, there's a young girl here. Like,
The
this is
pool
different.
always does it.
And after that swim, I had just gotten done with Ironman Maryland, and she was kind of gearing up for a race. I believe it was Augusta, and I had a friend that was at the pool that was kind of part of a open water swim group that I had swum with before, and again, I'm super quiet and reserved, and she had known my result from Maryland, so she's chatting about it and like congrats and all this sort of thing. And she had started chatting with Caroline and was like, "Oh, if you met him, he just got done with the Ironman," and said the time and everything. And Caroline originally thought like, "Oh, he's just some other kid, punk kid that's doing triathlon. He's probably slow." And and she was somewhat impressed by the result. So we also had the same 70.3 world champs backpack from, I think it was 2021 Utah.
Okay. Yeah. St. George.
And after that, she was going out for a little jog, and I was going to join her. So I said, "Hey, can I join you on the run?" And the whole time we were running, she was talking about her boyfriend and this and that and all that sort of thing.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, I get it. But from there, it was just, seeing each other at the pool and chatting about triathlon, and we would meet up at the track every once in a while. And like pretty shortly after that, she had left her boyfriend at the time, and things just evolved slowly. And yeah, here we are now.
How did you convince her to leave her boyfriend?
Oh, I didn't step on anyone's toes for sure. I stayed far away from all of that.
Yeah.
She'll tell you I was like, she didn't even know I was any bit interested the entire time. Plus, again, I don't wear my heart on my sleeve, sort of thing, and don't let a lot of people into who I am most of the time. So. Yeah, for sure didn't step on anyone's toes or anything. But how is it to like live and train with someone who's doing the same thing? It has its challenges. When it comes to racing, I think that's the most challenging part. Like it's two people stressed about race day, and we have to get our last sessions in leading into the race and travel, and it can definitely create some stress. I also find like I stress about her, like making sure that she has everything that she needs to perform well. So that like adds a different layer of it. But day to day, it's pretty smooth and excuse me. And I enjoy it. We will sometimes like align our workouts and go on a run together or hop in the pool together. So yeah, having the same like schedules and goals and ambitions and having all that align is much easier. It's not like she wants to go out and party on a Saturday night and hang out with friends and be social when we should be, or not should be, but when we ideally would like to emphasize
Recover.
recovery and rest
Yeah.
and get into bed. I mean, we've gotten to the point where we're like in bed at 8 o'clock and asleep by 8:30. I
That's a
mean, I am
beautiful
anyway.
thing.
I fall
Yeah.
asleep pretty quickly, but yeah. So getting a consistent like 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night, it's just that would be, I could foresee that being pretty difficult with a significant other that has other social requirements built into their life. But
Yeah.
I mean, we make it work, and I'm sure everyone else does as well. But yeah,
Now, so how long have you guys been together?
um, I I guess a year and a half.
Oh, really? I thought it was so much longer. I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm glad I asked that question. Um, as you've gotten to know each other more, like, what has it been like for you with letting someone into that closer space? And, there's this age-old stereotype where, men are just like a rock, and, the woman's like, hey, well, talk to me about your feelings. And the guy's like, what feelings
Mhm.
are, what's that? Do you have issue still opening up to her, or are you finding that it's easier to do?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think there's times where I still, I mean, we talk every once in a while about like I'll encounter something throughout the day and not share that experience. And then somehow she'll find out like through the grapevine. And then she's like, why wouldn't you say anything about that? And it's like, I never even thought that you'd
To say it.
want to know sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's more so like that, not necessarily like feelings. I'm like behind closed doors and to the point where I'm comfortable with someone. I'm completely different, and I definitely act like I have two different faces outside of the house and inside of the house sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
It's not dramatic, but I'm definitely a lot more goofy and uh, expressive than I ever would
Yeah.
be out and about. And I think that kind of dates back to being a rower. You have to be
Oh, really?
fairly stoic, and it's a very like disciplined and almost militaristic sport.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the way you have to carry yourself through public, and I mean these are all things that I believe in as a rower, and
Yeah.
what taught me that to be that way. And that kind of carries into day-to-day life even still.
Yeah.
But definitely behind closed doors, I'm a lot more, yeah, expressive and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think at a point now where, yeah, I'm comfortable in letting her in on everything. So it was an adjustment at first, but honestly, not too much resistance there.
Yeah. You still feel like this relationship's helping you like learn more about yourself?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, if you're with the right person, you'll continue to explore more about yourself through a relationship. And even if some of the dynamics change about yourself, it's a good thing. And if anything, it kind of gives you more confidence in who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you guys have a joint Instagram account, Mitch and Caroline. I think it's Mitch and
Yeah.
Caroline, right? Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
what is your thoughts and goals behind that? Because you said making videos again. You do have a YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. What do
Yeah.
you want
So
to do with those?
yeah, the whole idea behind that, we had a lot of like friends kind of just who are interested in what we do, and people who are not part of the sport,
Yeah,
just kind of stand in awe of what we do day to day. So just kind of expressing and sharing our story. We thought it was fairly unique, and why not let other people in? Again, that was like something that was completely not in my book. Like I didn't I never
Yeah.
anticipated sharing what I do day to day
Yeah.
and letting people in on my life to that level. But I've enjoyed it a lot, and documenting what we're doing and learning about creating short videos. It's not anywhere near some of the best quality that you've seen, but it'll get there. And again, I have a lot of fun with it and exploring that, and it's just a unique skill set that I'm having a lot of fun with. And the goals are just to see what happens. I don't know if there's one specific goal for it, but as long as I'm enjoying it and having fun with it, and I like to see some of the progression and see it get better, then that's what I'll do. So that's kind of where that stands. It's called Rise and Try right now.
Okay.
Rise
We'll have to
AND
link it.
Try.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
and then I mean there might be some changes soon, but
Yeah, I'll have to check
if
it
you
out, and
just
we'll
look
make
up
sure to
Mitch and
link it for
Caroline, you
sure.
should follow it or should see us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll make sure to link it in the show notes and stuff when we post it. Um, I have a question for you. Why do you think it is so interesting for someone to like Google a triathlon video? Because really, what we end up doing is just someone talks a little bit. All right, here's some really sick like slow mo footage of me riding with a bike, and here's my numbers, and running and swimming. What is it about those types of videos you think that draws people in?
So you're saying just like maybe snippets of people training sort of thing?
Yeah, like why, or like your YouTube channel or anybody else's. Like, what makes it interesting? Why do you think people care to watch it?
Well, I think it's like what the body can do, maybe. Like just it's like why do you watch the Olympics? Like people are
Yeah,
competing at the highest level in sport in their specific discipline, and even like when I watch the Olympics, like over swim, bike, and run, not necessarily triathlon, but those sports individually, you just sit there and you're in
yeah,
awe
kind of
of
blown away.
like how someone can move that fast or jump that high or
Yeah, it's crazy.
uh, I don't know, hit a volleyball that hard.
Yeah, I
So,
watched some of that yesterday.
um, I think it's the same thing as that. You see like a highlight reel of the men's 1500, and
Yeah,
you just see Cole Hawker moving through
dude,
the front of the field, and I mean, you just have to. Everyone understands like that must be
so hard.
like there must be so much work that goes into it. So yeah, I don't know what it might be specifically for one person to be interested in something like that, but just what the human body is capable of, and expressing that through film is something that's unique in itself.
Yeah, 100%. And I was even thinking of like the Olympics is one thing, like, because it's like organized sport or competition happening, which is super interesting. And I watched actually for the first time this morning the men's final 1500, and watching him come up through the field because he was way back, and then I forget the guy's name who was favored to win. I can't even pronounce it. That Norwegian guy, but just watching him come, and then the last, I think it was probably like the last 200, you see like the form kind of gives way to he's just trying to grab as much ground as he can and as hard as he can, just like throwing himself up there. It's just, yeah, it gave me cold chills actually. It was
Yeah,
wild. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, just and that's not even the only event. You watch like the marathon swimming, which was on this morning, or I mean, just any event that happens at the Olympics. It is you start to develop like there's a lot of memes this year, I think, about people who had no clue a sport existed, but then they're just like captivated, and it
Yeah.
draws them into the screen. That's sort of the same thing that alludes to your question earlier. Like you see a small snippet of a sport and you immediately think like, dang, I definitely couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Um, and just to sit there in awe of these athletes' abilities.
Yeah, I think we like to be inspired because I think of videos like, the one that I watch probably the most consistently is every time Lionel drops a video, I watch it, and it's not even, it's not even like there's something necessarily going to be different that comes on. Like it's the same stuff kind of over and over again. But I think it's the attachment to a character and a personality to watch someone kind of go through, because Lionel gets a lot of crap for changing his methods or tactics or coaches or whatever throughout the years. But honestly, like, I love that about him, because it's, you know, there may be some wisdom in staying with some things longer, but who am I to say? Because this guy's up, like you're saying, at the top level, are these Olympians, and they're, you know, trying the best that they can. But to watch them go through those ups and downs, it's just so interesting to watch. And it's actually really inspiring, because I've interviewed like Mark Allen and Scott Tinley, some of the really old OG triathletes, and, you know, they tell me stories of they're strapping jars of peanut butter on the fronts of their bikes. And, you know, and now you look how far nutrition's come. Like, people have to try everything possible and mess up so that we can kind of stand on the shoulders of giants and realize, like, oh yeah, this is there's a better way to do this. And I love seeing that in its raw form. It's just so great. Yeah. So that's kind of the thought on that.
Yeah, and like the emotion is something like when I watch a race and you finally see someone clinch a gold or even silver and bronze, they're just the emotion that comes out at that point. That's what really gets to you, you know. It's just having that feeling of like, wow, they're just so happy about their performance, and that makes you understand like all the work that's gone into it and the time and devotion that they've poured into their dream. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. So a lot of kids will watch these Olympics and they'll be excited and think like, oh, one day I want to do that. And then there's some kids who have held on to that dream, and now they're going into high school and college, and, you know, they're trying to make decisions, maybe even coming into college, like, should I chase this? So as someone like you who's been through that to a degree, and you had to make a decision like, okay, I'm going to kind of go after this dream, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is considering the professional athlete lifestyle and trying to make it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everyone, right? There's definitely like a personality or maybe just a specific background that doesn't align with that sort of lifestyle, because it is just that. It's like it has to be fully implemented into your lifestyle. Some people are a little bit more like fully involved in one sport versus like not being as involved. So if you think like the Norwegians, the Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav Iden, who are known to have dedicated like every second of every day into the sport of triathlon, that's not how everyone works, and that's completely respectable. And I mean, it can be done without having that happen either, or as well. So I mean, if you think about, there's definitely a lot of very successful people and athletes that have multiple aspects of their life, whether it's another full-time career on top of their sporting career, or involvement with different communities, or more involvement with family. So yeah, but to some degree, I believe like you should be prepared to adjust your lifestyle and build your days around what your passions are and what your goals and ambitions are, and like learn to like love learning about the entirety of whatever that is. So fully delving into all aspects of whatever your passion is, whether it's sport or music or any form of expression, or even a career. Like just develop the love and respect for what you do, and don't let other people deter you from that, because that's one thing that I battled with is just like accepting that I could continue having passion for sport with rowing and triathlon.
Hmm.
and just endurance sport in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to become a student, like have that willingness to continue to learn, which is really easy to do in the beginning of a sport, I think, or of any profession, because you don't know what you don't know. But then as we get older, it kind of goes one of two ways. You either become a little cocky because you think you know everything, or if you're truly wise, you realize all that you don't know, and you like almost undermine your experience to a degree. So it's interesting, but you always got to be a student and being
Hmm.
continuing to learn. But
Yeah.
yeah, man.
And one thing I do want to add is like a lot of what I did throughout high school and college with rowing was centered around the psychological aspect and learning to have more I don't know if it's control, but maybe that's the right word, or discipline, and managing uh, just every aspect of that through sport. I mean, I came in to high school like 115 pounds and one of the smaller guys compared to the rest of the team. But power to weight, I was competitive, if not leading the team in that aspect. So
Yeah.
I never even thought like, oh, power to weight, I could be competitive against these guys because they're massive and like double the size of me.
Hmm.
But that's really what developed my competitive side. And you know, when I'm sitting on the erg next to one of my teammates who's much bigger than I am, it was all about like I'm still capable of what they're capable of, if not more. It's just how much do you want to push your limits, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
that all goes back to the psychological aspect and having full control and being willing to step over the edge a few times before you bear your ground and continue improving. So yeah, psychological aspect is huge. If you can dive into that and understand more about how that works, then that's something that I definitely encourage.
Yeah. You have to believe that you can make it. I think that's why I love cycling so much, is because I only weigh right now even 126 pounds. Maybe after I eat, I'll weigh 130 sometimes. But the power to weight, like, 'cause when I first started cycling, it's with a bunch of guys who are much bigger than I, and they're all like just laying down. For me, VO2 is like 300 watts and above. Anything 300 is like, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
that's my VO2 max area. But they can be, holding that for a while, or you have all these super bikers who are holding 360, 400 surges. It's just like absolutely crazy to me. And then when I tell people what I hold
Yeah.
and the speed that I can go, they're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, because they're like laughing at me. Oh, I can hold that for 5 hours. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels good to be younger and then get out there and or smaller, excuse me, and have the higher power to weight. So I totally feel you there.
Yeah.
Psychologically,
You're
yeah,
just cruising up the hills and then
that's right.
downhills, change position.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to get better at descending.
gotta find
That's one thing. Yeah.
you gotta find races with courses that are just uphill. That's it.
Nice,
Maybe Norseman is
Nice.
good for you.
Yeah, Norseman would be really good. Nice, France. Maybe next year I might do another full and try to qualify again for the Worlds and see if I can make that happen. I think that'd be a beautiful course to really throw down on the climbs. My favorite race I've ever done is
Yeah.
Blue Ridge, which they discontinued it for quite a while, but it had like
Oh,
a
that's
five
right.
mile
Yeah.
climb in it, and that was like, oh man, I felt amazing. It was just such a fun experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. For sure.
yeah, well, Mitch, thank you so much for letting me dive in with you, and thanks for being pretty vulnerable and open and raw about the different stuff that you've gone through. I think it gives me and hopefully other people who listen a little bit deeper understanding of who you are, and as you climb through the ranks to number one, we'll be able to hold on to this and be able to say, oh yeah, we know that guy. He's got a cool story. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. 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 Along for the ride. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, hopefully people get a kick out of my story and
Yeah,
know that I'm definitely passionate about where I come from and my background, and yeah, super excited to see what's in the near future and long-term future.
yeah, for
But
sure.
thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much to Mitch for coming on the podcast today and for allowing me to dive into his life and hear about the different things that he has gone through and is currently going through. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind dropping a like, a comment, subscribe, a follow, any and all of those things, a review really do continue to help us grow in this podcasting arena. So really do appreciate you for that if you wouldn't mind doing that. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, you can do so at the stupidquestions.show website. There's a link there that will enable you to get signed up. And that is it. So thank you guys so much, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.